"If you open that door," the voice warned, "you will freeze with him or burn with the truth by morning." No one warned her that kindness could be this dangerous. The stranger collapsed right as she reached the corner, his body hitting the icy pavement. With a dull final weight, people stopped. People stared. Then people turned away. A woman whispered that someone else would handle it. A man shook his head and said it was not their problem. The cold did not care. It kept crawling over the stranger's coat, biting into his hands, climbing toward his chest. She stood there with grocery bags cutting into her fingers, breath coming out in white clouds, heart racing as the city chose silence. Every rule she had learned screamed at her to walk away. Every fear told her to stay invisible, but she did not move. The stranger tried to push himself up. He failed. His head dropped back, eyes half open, lips blue, breath thin. He was freezing to death in plain sight, and she was the only one who stepped forward. Her name was Mina Park, and she did not look like a hero. She looked tired. Her coat was worn at the cuffs. Her shoes had salt stains from winters that never seemed to end. There was a faint bruise on her wrist from a patient who had panicked earlier that day. She worked nights as a caregiver and days as a cleaner, moving through other people's lives like a quiet shadow. She knelt beside the stranger, without asking permission from the fear pounding in her chest. His skin felt wrong, too cold, like touching metal left outside overnight. She called out, voice steady even as her hands shook. She told him to stay awake. She told him help was coming, even though she did not know what help looked like yet. When he tried to speak, only a broken sound came out. That sound decided it. Mina hooked one arm under his shoulder and pulled with everything she had. He was heavy, not just in weight, but in presence. Still, she dragged him step by step toward her building, every muscle burning, every instinct screaming that this was a mistake. People watched from a distance. No one stepped in. The city held its breath and let her do it alone. Her apartment was small, warm, and clean in the careful way of someone who had learned that control was safety. The heater clicked and groaned. The air smelled faintly of ginger, soap, and old books. She eased the stranger onto her couch and peeled off his frozen coat. Hands working fast, gentle, precise. His clothes were expensive. His watch was heavy. His shoes were polished. He did not belong on a sidewalk. That should have scared her more than it did. She wrapped him in blankets, made tea, warmed soup, and rubbed his hands until color slowly returned. He opened his eyes once, sharp and dark, scanning the room like someone trained to survive danger. They locked on her face, and for a moment, something like confusion crossed his features. She told him he was safe. She told him to rest. She did not ask his name. Outside, the storm thickened, and the night closed in around her building like a held breath. Mina's past had taught her that silence could keep you alive, but it had also taught her what silence could cost. She grew up in a home where anger lived in the walls. Her father's moods filled rooms before he did. Her mother learned to stay quiet. Mina learned to stay useful. She cleaned, cooked, listened, and waited for storms to pass. When she left home, she promised herself she would never again walk past pain just because it was easier. That promise followed her into every job she took. As a caregiver, she learned the sound of bones creaking under fragile skin. She learned how loneliness smelled, how it sat heavy in rooms long after visitors left. She held hands when families did not show up. She whispered comfort to people who could not remember their own names. Once, years ago, she saw a man collapse on a subway platform. She hesitated. Others hesitated too. Help came too late. That memory never left her. Tonight, she refused to repeat it. The stranger slept in shallow bursts. Mina stayed awake at her table, hands wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. Every sound from the hallway made her shoulders tense. Pipes knocked. Wind pressed against windows. Once, she thought she heard footsteps outside her door. Near dawn, something slid from the stranger's coat onto the floor. A sleek black device, smooth and unfamiliar. Mina noticed it and deliberately looked away. She had learned that some truths arrive before you are ready. Morning light crept through the blinds, thin and grey. Mina stood and checked on him again. In daylight, his face looked carved from discipline. There was an old scar near his brow. His jaw was clean, his gaze steady as he woke. He asked where he was. She told him the truth. Her apartment. It was freezing. She could not leave him outside. He studied her like someone memorizing a detail that mattered. Then the world knocked back, not loud, not rushed, controlled, heavy. Mina felt it in her bones before. She heard it again. Black cars lined the street below her window. Men stood beside them, still and alert, scanning every entrance. They did not look like police. They did not need to shout. Their calm carried threat. The stranger sat up at once, movements smooth, trained. His presence filled the room in a way it had not before. He told her they were not there for her. That did not help. Mina asked who he was, voice barely steady. He gave her his name, Kongjun. The name meant nothing until her phone buzzed with missed alerts. A powerful Korean crime figure, missing overnight. Authorities silent. Rivals searching. The photo loaded slowly. It was his face. Mina's breath stopped. Her kindness had not saved a stranger. It had sheltered a storm. Men filled the hallway moments. Later, they did not rush her. They did not grab her. They waited, eyes sharp, reading the room. Their leader addressed Kongjun with respect that bordered on fear. Boss. Mina waited for the moment. Everything turned against her. It did not. Kongjun stepped beside her, close enough that she felt the shift in the air. He told them she was the reason he was alive. The hallway went still. He lifted one hand, and every man fell silent without question. He said no one would frighten her. No one would question her. Anyone who did would answer to him. Mina felt her knees weaken, but she did not step back. She warned him that protection could turn into control. Her voice shook, but the words held. Kongjun listened. That alone shocked her more than the cars, the men, the name. He said the strongest power was not fear, it was restraint. Their words landed heavy and true. He left her a number and a promise, then disappeared into the cold with his men, leaving Mina alone with a quiet apartment and a life that no longer felt small. The days that followed felt unreal. Her landlord suddenly stopped threatening eviction. A silent car appeared across the street at night, never blocking, never watching too close. A new shelter opened nearby, warm, clean, staffed with nurses and caregivers who treated people with dignity. There was no name attached to the funding. Mina recognized the shape of the help and felt both gratitude and anger. She did not want her. Kindness turned into a debt. She called the number. Kongjun answered. She told him to stop changing her life. He paused, then said she was right. Protection without consent was control. He promised to listen. He said that when he was freezing, she treated him like a person, not a headline, not a threat, a person worth changing for. The true shift did not come with violence or headlines. It came quietly. Rivals backed down. Harmful operations vanished. Clinics replaced hidden rooms. Fear loosened its grip on corners that had held it for years. People noticed without knowing why. Mina walked through the new shelter one afternoon and felt tears burn her eyes. This was power choosing repair instead of harm. Weeks later, the first snow returned. Kongjun waited near her building alone. No guards, no cars. He told her he had kept his distance. He told her he had another question, one not built on power. He asked for tea. Just tea. Mina looked at him and understood something that changed her forever. Her silence had never been weakness. It had been strength, waiting for the right moment. She nodded. The snow fell softer this time. In the end, the story was not about crime or fear. It was about a woman who refused to look away, about how quiet courage can shake even the hardest life, about how dignity, once shown, demands to be honored. Sometimes the world does not change with force. Sometimes it changes when someone opens a door. If you were in her place, would you have helped that stranger in the cold? Comment where you are, watching from, and share what you would have done. Subscribe for more stories that honor silent strength, unseen battles, and the power of choosing humanity when it would be easier to walk away.